Ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to Victorious Friday. As I always say, I have a special guest, and today is no exception. I'm really getting to know this young lady that you're going to meet today. Her name is Marian, and she has a unique story and a message for the marketplace leaders. Marian, welcome to Victorious Friday.
Thank you so much, Terrence. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you. And I just want to, man, as I get to know you and have conversations, I get excited just to think to have you on the show today. And what an insight you're going to give. Today's show, we're going to talk about the human factor. When we think about corporate America, when we think about the marketplace, many may think about profitability, shareholder value. They may think about, building some great product or service. But Marian today is going to talk about something greater. She's going to talk about the human factor, the fact that people have intrinsic value. And how do we value that? When I look around and I drive down, I see signs saying hiring now, where businesses today understand the importance of people more than ever because the marketplace is scarce with humans. There's many reasons for that existence today, but today we know that businesses can never operate without the human factor. Marian, where are you from? Tell us a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing in the early years, and as you know, tell us how you came to the States. But give us a little bit of who you are and what you do and where you're from.
I'd be happy to, Terrence. I grew up overseas, actually in Germany, near the Swiss border. And I grew up in an environment that was very beautiful. I grew up in a happy home. And I very much took a lot of things for granted, how beautiful everything was. The environment that I grew up, though, and in that culture, for those that know, it is driven by a lot of gender roles, by clear expectations. And so at the age of 24, I actually made my dream come true because I was determined that I would climb the corporate ladder and I would still start and grow a large family. And I am a mom of four little girls. So I came to the United States at 24 and I worked for a German company. And that was the first time I realized in that corporate environment how much of that human factor really mattered, because there were various cultures, in this case primarily German and US American, and then of course within the US a lot of diversity there. And that's when I started realizing that the results and the success and really the flow of the organization, the culture and everything, it came down to how people treated each other, what values they had, what kind of communication style they had, and just the sheer differences in how the German culture operates and the American culture operates. It was a fantastic and amazing experience at that time. And it really set off my track to explore cultures more, people more. And I do believe that in the marketplace, the human factor and the emotional intelligence of leadership makes or breaks an organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive into that, because tell us about that culture in Germany and that you grew up in. How would you describe the environment and a work environment in Germany? And then how would you describe that as you experience it in the United States?
It's much more linear. I experience it more in a very direct communication style. And I still sometimes, I do have some of that in me as well when, my American friends remind me if I get very passionate about something, it's a very boom kind of direct style of communication. And that doesn't always flow so well with the more flowery American. And a funny story there, like in the very beginning, when people would say to me, "How are you?" They would say, "Hello, how are you?" And I would wonder, why are they asking me how I am? Because they don't even know me. So at first I looked at them funny. And then afterwards, I actually answered, which was probably even worse because people didn't really expect me to to answer to them and to actually give
Yeah.
them an idea of how I was. But the style is very much linear, it's direct, it's very organized, it's very much planned out, which is everything around the German, not just in the corporate environments, but also in a personal environment, very structured. And so the other component of that I've noticed was that there were primarily Germans in executive roles because they came from Munich, they were promoted and they came into the organization there. And so you had a heavy dynamic of German leaders that then were leading US American teams. And so some did much better than others, but I realized that intercultural training is key, because you are leading as a role model, you are truly understanding what your team members are doing, what they need, what you're seeing in the marketplace, how the products need to look like. And there again, sometimes we had product features that simply weren't made for the US market that we had to adjust. And so that component really carried forward to other experiences that I had with companies such as IBM, or even during my school when I studied international business management. I felt it was so intriguing to me to just learn about these different cultures, understanding them, embedding myself into it. And at the same time, I realized that human nature, we want to know, we flock to what we know. And so I realized that there were groups of German interns, German employees that would flock together, Americans that would flock together. And I always came from a perspective of, if I wanted to be surrounded by all Germans, I'd be still in Germany. So I wanted to be part of other cultures and really learn and understand. And so in today's world, and fast forward, that has been 20 years ago. So I've been in the States now for, a long time. And as I was climbing in my corporate roles, the level of diversity, not just of cultures and nationalities or even genders, but the personalities, the strengths, the weaknesses, the aspirations, and all the differences that each team member brings in, to really value that human being as a human being, not a title, not any other kind of label that we're all guilty of, that like to put on people. But truly understanding, how can I leverage that team member? How can I create an environment of collaboration, of teamwork, where people feel that they're growing, they are valued, and they are appreciated?
I was thinking about, as I'm listening to your story and your experience, and I thought about, as this show is Victoria's Family, Victoria's Friday, talking about families and marketplace and so forth, it came to a thought to me that as a mother of four children, and by the way, what's the ages of your children?
They're 10, 9, 8, and 4.
Wow,
4
10,
girls.
9, 8, and four beautiful girls. Unbelievable. I think about your upbringing. I think about the culture in which you grew up in, and the recognition of collaboration and personalities and the human factor. The question that I want to bring to you really kind of comes back to the family, and it's, as a mother of four, coming from such a system, right? Rigid system, very, process driven, et cetera. How would you take, that culture of the marketplace in terms of structure, and how do you apply that at home as a mom with four beautiful girls?
Yeah, my organizational skills come very handy with all of this, because I do believe that leadership is not just something in the corporate world, it's something that we do every day at home. And the way we are raising our children is that we are we want to create leaders in their own way. We want them to step up. We want them to be kind. We want them to be respectful to each other. And those are values that we've established as a family that are very important to us. And I found that with children, they might not always like to hear what we say, but when we have clear expectations, there's no doubt in their mind of what is expected, what they should be doing. And actually another funny story the other day, I said, you can help a little bit around the house. You can maybe ask what could be done. Maybe you can set the table. And mind you, I mean, the littlest is 4, but she got this. They're more capable than we give them
Oh,
credit
yeah.
for. And so they came to me and they said, I really enjoy helping. I really enjoy seeing that I am supporting you and how happy that makes you. And it made me realize that sometimes we think they're still little, but we can give them little things where they can show their leadership, where they can show their helpfulness, where they can show their kindness. And it actually doesn't just help us, but it helps them.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a female in the marketplace and dealing with, all the different challenges that is as a mom, tell me, how did you work through that process of being in the marketplace, raising 4 beautiful girls, and having this approach that you want to be successful, you want to make a difference, you want to make a difference in people's lives in the home as well as people outside the home in the marketplace. How did you make that adjustment? What are some lessons or some things that you can share that may help our audience who's listening today?
Yeah, I'd love to, because I get that question a lot from women actually that ask, how did you do that? And the way that I did it, first of all, we never do anything alone, right? I had a lot of support, whether my husband, we were really a team. This was a team work, and we created an environment that allowed us to do that. But the way I did it was I built my career first. I found it was easier for me as a female to actually build my career. And I was very fortunate that I had a lot of mentors. And in fact, they were all male, which is interesting all in itself, because the industry construction, I was in the early stages of my career, I was the only female at the table. And I do remember like the days when I sat there, and coming from that German culture where you don't disagree with, or at least that's how I was brought up. It might be different in the younger generations, but the way I was brought up was, if it's somebody that is older, you listen, you respect them. And especially if it was a male, you are not sitting at that table and telling them they're wrong or you have a better idea. So to me, I sat at this table, and I remember to this day, I had one really strong mentor, and he said, you have all these amazing ideas. Why do you not bring them up? And I said, how could I? I am 20 years everybody else's junior. I'm the only female. I'm early in my professional life. I don't feel comfortable speaking up. And so I would come to his office afterwards and tell him all my great ideas. And he said, well, this needs to stop. You need to start speaking. And he literally put me on the spot in the meeting. He said, Marian, what do you think about this? And so slowly I came out of my shell, of that cultural shell, primarily because anybody that knows me is, I'm not a shy person. But in this instance, I just was so embedded in this culture that I couldn't help myself. And the more I came out, the more confidence I developed. And next thing I knew, a couple of years later, I actually created the entire strategic plan for the organization, built up their business unit, and brought the company significant growth and relevance back, because they were starting to lose a lot of their clients and their partners. So that was a real success story. And I would say that was probably the ignition of my career to come. And then at that point, as I was building that career pretty high up, I started my family. And so the organization was important to me. And just simply the fact that I was a working mom, I had to create clear boundaries.
Mm.
To me, the morning, and I was fortunate that I was in positions where I could start at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. So having breakfast together is non-negotiable unless there's a really important trip or something that needs to happen and I'm not there. But otherwise, I would not make plans with friends in the evening after work. This is time with the family. Now, when they're sleeping, that's a different story. Then we can figure that out. But those times were so valuable because that was the time for us as a family to connect, to exchange what our days looked like, to help each other, to really get to know each other. And that's to this day where the mornings and the evenings, I would say 90 to 95%, these are the days and times that we as a family, we come together. And that allowed us to truly enjoy our professional life, because I also do believe when we do what brings us energy and what we enjoy, and the work that we do brings me tremendous joy. And especially like as I can be a role model, that a female role model that I wish I had. I had no idea where I was going, what I was doing, and I just trusted my instincts. I took risk, and not that I wasn't afraid. I was afraid, but I decided to do it anyways. And I came across so many amazing mentors along the way that brought out truly the best in me. And I want to give forth of that and be that role model, be that mentor, and give others that hope. And that's how I've always even led and managed my teams. It's the person, the core of the person that matters. If somebody is not delivering, we need to understand what is going on, because most times than not, something is happening. Either they are not clear on the expectations, or they are going through something, or they've kind of checked out, or whatever the reason might be. But connecting person to person, that is the same at home as it is at work. So that's
Yeah.
my philosophy.
No, that's good. That's good. And we're going to come back to the marketplace in a minute. I want to stay here at the home for a second, because you have a 10, a 9, an 8, and a 4, right?
Yep.
And I'm sure all their personalities are different, right?
Yep.
They're doing different things. And so if I heard you correctly, I mean, you were in corporate America, and then you started to have your family, and you have these beautiful girls, and you and your husband, and as you're walking through that and setting boundaries and making sure you're prioritizing time, and reserving time in the morning and at night, and making sure you're spending that quality time. Tell me some stories about your daughters. Tell me, how are they different? How are they the same? And how do you as a mom connect with each of them as we think about the human factor?
Yeah, they are very thick. They, and with that comes both sides. They're extremely opinionated. They stand for what they believe. They stand
Where'd
for
they
what
get
they
that
want.
from?
I exactly right. And I honestly don't think it was an accident that I'm having 4 daughters. I think there is something to be said about that. But I am the most proud I am is when I know they're standing up for what they believe. If something happens that they know isn't right, they don't just bog down or, check out or say, oh, I can't do anything about that. And that is how we were raising them. And that was really the hope and the faith that we had, to say, when you see something that's happening, or just the kindness towards other kids, and children can be rough. Sometimes when we're hearing stories from school where, the other day a little boy had his glasses knocked off, it's things like that happen. They do. And I want my girls to be the ones to pick up that child, to help him find his glasses when he can't see, and to think ahead and be proactive, and maybe realize and see when somebody is going through something, or somebody is standing on the side and doesn't feel like they fit in, because we all come in different shapes, forms. We're going through different experiences. So lend a helping hand. Be that friend if that person doesn't have anybody. And that was probably the most proud I've ever been they have amazing grades and everything, and that's all wonderful, right? But the most proud I get when I see them like talking to the child that doesn't speak English yet, and trying to communicate through it, whatever, either sign language or just, whatever hand movements they can do to kind of start to connect with that child. And I do believe as adults we could learn so much from children, because there's a purity in this, even in today's time of me now. For the past year, I've been launching my own business. And so I left the corporate world. And even sometimes when I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm not sure this or that. Well, mommy, that's clear. You got to do this. Why wouldn't you do this? Because they think so strategically, so clearly, so purely,
Yeah.
that sometimes we are in our own way.
We try to
And
complicate it, don't we?
we do. And we have a lot more baggage. We have a lot more experiences, of course, and limiting beliefs or beliefs in general, that sometimes we just get cluttered in our thoughts, and we don't truly connect with the knowledge that's already inside of us. And I believe that children can do that much better.
Mm-hmm. What legacy would you like to leave at the end of the day? What would you like to be known for with your children, as a mom, as a wife? What would that look like? What would you say would be your long-lasting legacy you would love to see your children say about you, and people to think about you?
I would like to leave that legacy that the only boundaries we have are really those of our own making, because we can break through boundaries. We can break through any kind of limitations, anything that is in front of us where we say, oh, and unfortunately, it's not possible. I don't believe that there's anything that is not possible. It's coming down to how much we believe in it, how much faith we bring up, how many different ways we try, because there has been many, many times when I came up on some challenge, and there were a lot of challenges. The more you venture out, the more challenges you experience, I've found. So standing there and saying, oh, can't do anything, right? It's not going to help anybody. We have to start looking at things creatively, differently. And the legacy that I want to leave with my girls, you're going to fall down, but you need to get back up. And that's the same I do today, and I will always do when they're falling down. It's like, oh, are you bleeding? What's happening? Okay, let's rise back up. You're good. And, and that's not in an unkind way. Of course, if they're really hurt, we need to take care of that. But it's just that attitude of, am I the victim? Or am I taking charge and control over a situation? And even if it's a bad situation, turning it around, because there's always, at least that's what I have found, there's always something that then leads me to something better. And when I look back at all of the challenges that I thought, why did this happen to me? I realized that it either was a redirection, or it was simply a learning, or it was something that I needed to get through so I could, as a person and as a professional, I could grow into something that is really, really more of what I thought I'm even capable of. But that type of growth doesn't come without the discomfort. And that's something that I certainly want the girls to understand, and to support them and guide them, whether it's with the girls or it is with anybody else that I come in touch with, because that is at the end of the day what life, in my opinion, is about. We need to grow, we need to evolve, and when we are in a position to leave an impact along the way, that's really all that matters.
I think about, I have one question. I want to go into your next topic, but as I think about the little ones growing up today, and yours are certainly in that sweet spot between 10 and 4. And most people will say biblical worldviews are shaped within 3 and 13 years of age. So right now, your kids are in the most influential age
Mhm.
where their thoughts are being shaped, their worldviews are being shaped, etc. As a mom, not a, this isn't your profession, but it's just as a mom, what
Mhm.
would you say are the greatest challenges that your children are facing right now, and that you are facing right now as a parent? What would you say is challenging your home today, challenging your children today?
Mm. It's, I would say it's the flood of information coming, and a generation where we have a lot of adults that we are all very, very busy. We all have a lot of influences from different parts, right? And social media certainly is a big one there, especially not my children yet because they don't have phones, but their friends have phones. So no doubt about that is already playing a role there. But I would say that the communication and truly connecting with your child is probably the best time investment you can have. So they have you to bounce off their thoughts, their confusion, their not understanding, because how would they? They come into this and now they have these influences from all the sides. And if we as parents don't come and make sense of all of that and somehow guide them of, yes, of course, you will be part of this world. It's not like you can escape from that world, but to give them the guidance of how to navigate it. That's probably the one big piece, especially too over these last 18 months of what we all went through, where we just being together physically isn't necessarily, it's not doing the trick. We have to communicate, we have to truly connect, understand what's happening, and out of these conversations we will see and hear what they're really dealing with. And I do believe that oftentimes we feel as adults we need to get the next greatest whatever toy, or they really want to do this, or we do an amazing vacation, right? I mean, all of these things are good. I'm not saying let's not do that, but at the end of the day, it's the time we spend with them, the connection we have, and their quality. For me, quality always goes over quantity, because we can spend 5 hours with our kids. If we're not connecting with them, if we're not listening to them, if we're not having a conversation at the end of those 5 hours, we still don't really know who they are, and they don't really know who we are either. Then what is supposed to come out of that? So that, to me, even if we connect for a shorter period of time, I want to know what is going on in their head. What do I need to help them guide through, navigate through? And then let's give them that direction. So when they are in their environments, with their friends, with their schools, with their activities, they know how to navigate through it, or at least they're starting to go in that direction and not off the track.
Yeah, yeah. Man, that's good. That's good. Well, you started a new, there's a new um, role in your life, so to speak, and you started something new. Tell us about your business and tell us about
Yeah.
what you do now.
Yeah, I fast forward from our earlier experience with the German American company. I went through the ranks, and I was one of the former executives of a large global real estate company. And so throughout all of these years, I just realized that the higher up you get into an organization, I thought it was all pure, and people mattered as much as I thought that they would matter. And I just realized that regardless how high up I was, I still never had that full control over that aspect, that human factor. And in fact, I was more in a position where I felt like I felt conflicted of decision to make, because I knew the business decision that was expected to me that didn't align though with my values and how I would have decided otherwise. So I decided to leave my role. I decided to start my own advisory firm, global advisory firm, and I am advising and working with corporate leaders, marketplace leaders, and helping them create new levels of brand loyalty internally and externally. Because when we are talking about brand, everybody has a brand. Everyone has a brand. But those brands I'm working with are those that truly internally value what they have. They externally value, which creates that type of loyalty. They have an impact like they've never had before. And the organization is in a growth spurt. So that is expanding on that stage, and ideally on a global level, because that is where my expertise comes in when we're discussing various cultures and marketplaces for that matter. So that's what I've been doing for the past year.
Yeah. You know, when you think about corporate America today, and we are talking about the human factor as a topic here, which is really each person in an organization has intrinsic value. How would you describe the culture of corporate America today and their connection with the human person?
That's an interesting question, Terrence, because I have seen both sides. I've seen, especially over these last 18 months, where companies were literally forced into different setups, different management styles, different leadership styles. And I have seen companies that are just trying to do the same thing. They, maybe they had people at home, and then at some point they had everybody come back and they pretended like this never existed. Or the other part of it, where some companies have realized how much of their success depends on their people, the cultures that they're creating, having a culture that fosters trust, reliability, because I do believe that a lot of employees are or were and still are at the point where they looked up to their leaders, and they with a hope that they would guide the way, that they would lead them through. Because with any time of uncertainty, we look up to others. We look up to something or someone that gives us hope, regardless of what your faith might be, or what upbringing you had. But times of uncertainty, we have to have some type of faith that we will come through this. And I do believe that a lot of employees have looked up to their leaders, to navigate them through. And I do see, on a positive note, I see more and more companies that realize that the emotional intelligence is critically important. The people are critically important. I mean, last I looked, employees are leaving their positions more than or one company that I've seen, they're hiring people at like double the rate that they used to pay. So they realize that the employees are not the same as they were 18 months ago. And that, I believe, is something good that came out of the situation that otherwise is very sad, very disruptive, and just overall has a lot of very negative aspects. But there were certain things that came out of this that I believe, as a society and as a community and as families, we can benefit from some of the things that came.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, we could just go on for hours, Marian, but time doesn't permit. So here's what I like to do to wrap up. I want you to look in that camera, and you talked about hope, and we need to, at some point, come to that position that it's greater than us, it's bigger than us, it's more than us, it's about something greater as well. And so I want you to think about, normally we say look into the camera and talk to parents, but today I like for you to look into the camera and just specifically talk to moms who also may be in the workplace, and they're trying to, how do you balance that mom and child and so forth. But even as a leader, to recognize that the human factor applies not only at work, but at home as well. Look into that camera in about a minute and give us words of encouragement, but specifically for the mom.
The one thing that I would love to say to all of the moms out there is we have so many qualities as moms. We have so much strength in us that even sometimes we might not see it, we might not experience it, and we might not even value that in ourselves. But taking a step back and saying, and really realizing how much of that is within us and how much of that really the world needs to bring those female qualities to life and to be out there. I mean, even look at childbirth and all of these processes that nature has given us. There is so much strength that we have to bring out and we have to believe in, that I would like to encourage all of the moms that you got this. It's when you are, and you also have to take care of yourself. And I think sometimes with moms, it's that level of guilt that comes in, and societal norms play a role in that too. When we say, well, as a mom, I should do this, I should not go to work, or I should not go as much to work, or I should be, this mom is better, spends more time with her kids. No, give yourself some grace. We are in a world where we all bring so many things to the table, and sometimes that guilt is within us so deeply embedded, and it's time to let that go.
That's good. That's good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we just wrapped up another episode of Victorious Friday. Victorious Friday is a podcast for Victorious family, and so we're so thrilled to have Marian today as she talked about the human factor, both in the marketplace and at home, and just words of encouragement she just shared for us today. At Victorious Family, we equip a generation to reach a generation so that we can see homes that are flourishing not only in our own might and our own strength and ability, but flourishing because there's something greater to aim for. And for us, that something greater he was on the cross. And so that's our power source. That's where we have strong homes. And so, Marian, I'd like to thank you. As I point our audience to where they can find you and your business and how they can connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
The best way is through the website, weilerinternational.com. There's a little area there where you can connect with me directly, work with Marian. So just reach out to me through there, and we can set up a 30-minute call and discuss how I can help you.
Awesome. Well, if you guys want to understand better how to navigate that human factor within your organization, how to structure it, we believe it's about the human factor. They have intrinsic value. Marian can help you with that process. She's been working with organizations for many years and helping them through managing that process and putting processes in place. Marian, I thank you today. Thank you for your insights. It's been amazing, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.
Thank you so much, Terrence.